Hey, it's Christopher, and you're listening to the super fantastic, above average racing spectacular. How about Daytona? Not enough drama, huh? As they say, NASCAR lacks any kind of excitement. The same old people win every week. Storyline, Penske, JGR. Well, if anyone was looking for the underdog to get behind and to jump on a bandwagon, well, Justin Haley came through for y'all. Mixed reviews for the win, huh? I was reading, I know, rain shortened event, very similar to 14 when Eric Almirola won. Eric Almirola is a full-time competitor, competing for the title, playoff spot. Justin Haley's not. You can never really seem to appease the people out there. People complain so much about Penske and JGR trading barbs every week. Hendrick had a little bit of a run there with Alex Bowman. Big win, back-to-back first-time winners. Could it be three consecutive? Kentucky? We'll see. Daniel Suarez is on the pole. We record this is Saturday, just a couple hours before Kentucky. You're a bit behind, but I'm going to bring this episode to you regardless. I'm going to keep on moving along forward each and every week. Sorry there for the brief hiatus, but we're back. And better than ever, I hope. So Haley, I don't... Personally, what do I think about it? I'm indifferent. I don't really care. It had no implication on the playoffs. It's going to be one of those deals where it could be forgotten in a couple years, depending what route this driver goes in Xfnity, how he progresses in that series. He had an outstanding year in the Truck Series a year ago. Had a lot of talent. Lots of talent. You could see that. I remember watching a race at Bowmanville a few years back in the trucks, and there was a bit of a spotlight on Justin Haley. And, I mean, I know very little about him, I'll be honest. I don't really watch a lot of Xfinity or a lot of trucks. I think Xfinity is starting to pick up and is worth watching every week. That's for sure. There's some great action going on there. If you are a huge fan of that kind of racing, you want to see that series flourish again, I recommend giving an Xfinity race an opportunity to intrigue you. And I think you will be intrigued very much, and it has been a great series in the last year or so, and the championship actually means something. Kind of cut out the Cup regulars, and I know this Justin Haley win, before we really dive into it here, I don't know if I never had a problem with it. I just think it's going to be one of those wins that if he can back it up and put together a good career in Xfinity and work his way to the Cup Series at some point in a competitive ride or even a semi-competitive ride, then fine. If not, then what can we say? It's just another one of those one-and-dones, and there's a lot of them in the sport. And it's a tremendous feat. Should not be marginalized at all, at any point. I wouldn't marginalize it. I think it's a great win. It's a good confidence boost for a young team and a new team, Inspire Motorsports. But let's not read too much into it, you know? It's a massive upset. Is it bigger than Trevor Bayne at Daytona a few years ago? I'm not sure. David Reagan. What is the best upset of all time in NASCAR? The biggest, the most surprising upset? Again, you could go Bayne in the 500. And that turned out to be an Achilles heel for Trevor Bayne. He struggled mightily. He never could get a full-time deal with the Wood Brothers to run that car. I think they were a part-timer. He was a part-timer in Xfinity. Just never gelled with Roush when he got to the Cup Series for whatever reason. Was replaced last year. He split with Matt Kenseth. I don't know if he's going to resurface again. I really can't say. At this point, it looks doubtful. David Reagan at Talladega in 13 in the spring with him and David Gillen, 1-2 for front row. That comes to mind. Greg Sachs. July race produces a lot of upset winners. 85, remember that? Derek Cope, the Daytona 500 in 1990. Earnhardt cuts that tire down. Cope would back it up, though. He'd win at Dover the same year, but you haven't really heard much of him. Even Michael Waltrip Ironically, the tragic day of demise of Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale driving a Dale Earnhardt car. The DEI number 15 at the time, Napa Auto Parts, Waltrip winning the 500. People say that go down as Vegas upset. Backs it up in 03, though. Bruin Bouchard, Talladega in 81. Brad Keselowski. I know we can say, well, Brad winning wasn't really an upset, but think about this. At the time, Brad is fresh out of his deal with JGR Motorsports and the Xfinity Series, and here he is with James Finch's team, the Mikasuki Indian Gaming car, 09 car, wins it at Talladega, the member for the big wreck with Carl Edwards. I'd still say that was one of the greatest upsets in NASCAR history. It was huge. And as obviously Keselowski went on to become a champion and a big star in the sport. Jimmy McMurray, his third start. Charlotte, the fall of 2002, subbing for Sterling Marlin. That surprised a lot of people. David Rudiman, another rain-shortened race, Coke 600, 2009. That's a big win for a guy that a lot of people had been around a while in the truck series and Xfinity and hadn't really attained a lot of success, but had a couple wins with MWR and the 00, Aaron's Dream Machine, Lake Speed, the Darlington Spring Race, 1988. Regan Smith, another Darlington race. Seemed to Darlington, as much as Daytona and Talladega produced a lot of upset winners in the past, Darlington has as well. Regan Smith, the Southern 500, outlasting Carl Edwards in 2011, and who could forget Chris Buescher most recently. Pocono, the fog, that heavy, heavy fog that plagued Pocono on that August afternoon on a Monday, 2016. Chris Buescher gets Front Row Motorsports into the playoffs. So Justin Haley and Spire, this is his third start. Spire's first year in the Cup Series. He's the fourth driver in the modern era that he joins McMurray, as we said, Charlotte in 2002, Bain in the 2011 Daytona 500, and Kevin Harvick in Atlanta 2001 as the fourth driver in the modern era to win within their first three Cup starts. He only leads one lap, and is the most important lap of his career to this point. Maybe in the Cup Series, I don't know. But nonetheless, just leads the one lap. And that's the only lap you need, is the final lap that takes you to the checkers. Previous was 32nd at Talladega, best finish for Spire. He is the 20th driver to score his first career win at Daytona and the rain-shortened event. Again, it's going to be under scrutiny, under the microscope. It's a rain-shortened event. Did he have any business really winning this race? It did nothing to impact the playoff picture. And I think the way Cup is set up now, there's a lot of emphasis on the playoff picture, and it didn't hurt. This win didn't hurt anybody. It took away maybe a win from a driver who, come playoff time, the cutoff, we're going down to Indianapolis and Darlington. Well, we're going to say, did he take away a position from somebody? I don't think that's going to be much of a factor, because I think the forecast for the rest of the season, the second half here, starting with the race this evening at Kentucky, is JGR and Penske are going to win a bunch more races. You might have a couple hundred wins in there, maybe somebody else, but I don't think many drivers are going to win from outside of those organizations. It's going to come down to a battle for points for the 15th and 16th position, and that cutoff with 17, it's going to flip-flop back and forth. That's just the trend we're seeing here. And I think in the end, it's easy to blame Justin Haley and throw him under the bus, grill him. Hey, in the end of it all, he's in the race. He's entered. He's racing for a paycheck too, and he's trying to build his name, that recognition. A lot of people don't know who Justin Haley is. Had a phenomenal year in the Truck Series in 2018. First year in the Xfinity Series. Why crucify him? For what? For absolutely what? He got himself a checkered flag. That's pretty cool. Spire Motorsports, they said first year in Cup, they ran with Jamie McMurray in sort of a collaboration with Chip Ganassi. They finished 22nd. That was their best finish to this point. They've used 6 different drivers this year. Canadian DJ Kennington, Reed Sorensen, the journeyman, Garrett Smithley, Quinn Huff, and McMurray, as we said. And now Justin Haley. So 18 races in, they claim their first win. It helps this team maybe attract sponsors. I said it's an underfunded team. First year out of the gate, 22nd place finish is their best with McMurray, who had sponsorship because of his partnership with Chip Ganassi Racing. For Haley, he has 3 wins in 2018. It was a breakout year in the trucks for him. He finished third in the standings. He's third in the standings currently. He was third in the standings there. And the Xfinity Series this year, he's competing full-time for Kulig Racing. He finished his career best at Daytona. Kulig Racing was their best. Kulig Racing was their best one to finish for them. Ross Chastain wins the race. And what does this mean for his future? What does this mean for Justin Haley's future? I think this win isn't really going to impact him much at all. I know you probably think, well, why do you think that's crazy to say that? It's not. I just don't think it's going to make a big difference, honestly, for the future. I think, again, it's not anything. It's not an axe to grind. I really hope he does well, but at this point, he's running with some pretty underfunded teams, and I just don't see unless he catches the attention of somebody, and you know how hard it is to find seat. And Kulig Racing, unfortunately, and I said that was cute. It's Kulig, actually. There you go. I corrected myself. Kulig Racing is a great story. Spire Motorsports is a great story. But Justin Haley is not going to find a lot of success in Cup if he moves there with Spire or Kulig out of the gate. They just Kulig and Spire don't have the resources unless they were to be a satellite team of somebody. I get that, but at this point, I think Justin Haley should just run the Xfinity Series, get a lot of seat time with Kulig Racing, get in the playoffs, and who knows, Kulig Racing and Justin Haley could be standing there, Homestead, Miami, raising the trophy, let the ultimate underdog season continue, and I think everybody would be all over that. But I think at this point in time, don't read too much into Justin Haley's win. It was a right place, right time. Landon Castle's kicking himself now. Landon Castle and Starcom were so close as well. We'll talk about that momentarily, but I still think it's a great win. I'm okay with it. It made my chin drop to the floor a little, I'll be honest. I didn't see much of the race. I was back and forth as it was postponed and ran on Sunday instead of under the lights. And again, you could put this under the microscope and dissect this till the cows come home. Who really gives a fuck? It's over. It's in the record books. Justin Haley is a winner of the Cup Series, and a big, big shout out to him. And he's got a lot of talent. He's a 2016 K&N Pro East champion. And also, let's get in a drink there. Excuse me. Lost in the shuffle. Is crew chief the winning guy in the pit box, Peter Suspenzo. Remember him? This is his first win as a crew chief since 2003. Had a lot of success with Penske and Hendrick Motorsports. 4 wins, 2 with Jeremy Mayfield, and one with Joe Nemechek and Hendrick, the 25 car. So he kind of spent the last better part of the decade just floundering around working for Front Row, Germain Racing. I think he was with some of the other Start and Park organizations. So he's been around, but this is a huge win. And like I said, no impact on the playoff implication. But this is the 3rd win this year that's not from JGR or Penske. The other was Hendrick. And you see, I don't want to talk about this we didn't touch on it because we didn't have an episode last week. But how about Martin Truex Jr.? What an entitled motherfucker. You know, he goes from being, and I like his story. I really do. I still respect the guy, but he's becoming, as I said in previous episodes of this program, a resident whiner. Alex Bowman scores his first win at Chicagoland. It's a big event, and Alex has been knocking on the door. This is not exactly come out of nowhere. This is a big upset. Alex has improved greatly this year. If they handed out hardware for the most improved, Alex Bowman would likely be your winner by a landslide. He says the Hendrick dominance in that race, Chicagoland, and they had good cars at Daytona too, was a one-off. Come on, Truex, come on. and be humble. You're enjoying the best years of your career with Furniture Row, and now with JGR, which is an extension of that. It's virtually running the same team, just the 19 car. I keep saying that forever too, because their closure was suspicious to me. And to throw shade on Alex Bowman, try to tarnish the moment, hey, he earned it. He beat you. He beat the other drivers on the track that night. The other 36, 37 drivers out there, 38, whatever it is. There's such smaller fields now. But the bottom line is, he got to the winner's circle. You've got 4 on the year. What are you complaining about? They were just a bit better that night than you. And Hendrick has shown that, we talk about what team could come up there and sort of take a run at Penske and JGR. It's obviously Hendrick. Proven it time and time again. William Byron here, career best for him, second place run. He's really coming into his own. I think, as we said on a previous episode, I think of him and Chad Canales as almost like Miyagi and the Karate Kid. They're really gelling, yet the Zen master with this young pupil who to teach him how to attain nirvana and Zen, well, in this case with NASCAR, run up front every week, giving him that confidence. I think William Byron's confidence was a bit shaken last year. He goes from career years, in the trucks, wins a lot of races in dominant fashion, and he wins the Xfinity title first year out of the gate. And here he graduates the Cup. Doesn't have a lot of success. Hendrick Motorsports, a huge organization, powerhouse organization. I think it's all for seat time. William Byron has improved a lot in his second year. Very close. I think he is going to finish the winner's circle. He's going to find himself in the winner's circle real soon. Chad Knaus has that know-how, that championship pedigree behind him with Jimmy Johnson, all that success. I think him and Byron it's just into next year, 2020. Going to be a pretty deadly combination, and even this year could be one of your favorites that we're not really looking at in the championship picture with the Placer. But since Dover, this is an 8-race span in May. He's got 1 top 5, 5 top 10s, and 2 poles. So these cars, the 24 car is fast. His career best finish, and this is his first top 5. He's 12th in the standings. He looks pretty well in good position to make the playoffs. A win would be nice, but Hendrick is a real legit threat to JGR and Penske. And like I said, the off-color comments at Chicagoland by Truex Jr., it's just all sour grapes. Hendrick is the only other team, aside from the Justin Haley upset, to win 2 races in 2019. And to really challenge these guys. Because I think Hendrick went to that rebuild mold, but it's still Hendrick Motorsports. It's a lot, if you compare it to other sports, it's still that dynasty feel. The Yankees have that. Big name people out there. And I think it's something that you want to, I think you can't overlook them. They still have that pedigree, and they still can get it done on any week, any weekend. And I think Hendrick sort of set the bar years ago with their dominance, and I just can't see it being any different for them. So they're going to get really good. I don't know what their future looks like. Jimmy Johnson is sort of ending the toward tail end of his career, but you have 3 really good drivers in Bowman, Chase Elliott, and Byron in that organization. It's going to keep that organization looking really strong for years to come here. And Jimmy Johnson, we talked a lot about Jimmy, and he's been off this year. Last couple years, he's been 2 years winless now. He's back in the top 5. He was 4th at Chicago, 3rd here at Daytona. This is his first back-to-back top 5 finishes since 2017, and he won at Bristol in Texas then. So Jimmy Johnson is starting to click with Kevin Mindering. Here you have the reversal. You have the veteran driver with the younger crew chief, the rookie crew chief. So when they made this announcement last fall, I remember saying, I think this is going to favor Byron in the end, because Johnson was already in a tailspin, and really changing the dynamic could freshen up the team. And I think in the end it's working for both. This swap has worked out, well, not necessarily a swap, but the crew chief changes as we saw Byron was working with Grubb last year. Alex Bowman also is just continuing to impress since Talladega. Nothing but bad, but he had on that string of runner-up finishes. He's been one of the best drivers in the sport since Talladega. Legit playoff contender. He's in the playoffs. He captured his first win at Chicagoland, led 88 laps, ironically, in the 88 car. He's ninth in the standings going through this race to see if he didn't get Kentucky. And since that Talladega race, the span of 9 races, 1 win, 4 top 5s, 6 top 10s. And his second playoff appearance, it just seems to be on the horizon here. It's going to happen as he wins here. He impressed a lot of people last year in the playoffs. Didn't think he was going to go very far. Well, he did. This year, expect him to net big results. I think the right place, right time, the right amount of confidence. You've got a guy like Greg Ives who had a great year with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2015. Sort of rekindle some of that magic in the 88 camp that they had in 15. And Alex Bowman, man, could be standing in the winner's circle at Homestead, Miami, holding that trophy. It's not out of the question. Believe you me. Chase Elliott. So Talladega and Pocono, he went on a 5-race span there where he had a win. He was in the top 5 and the top 10. The last 4 races, not so much. Chase is really, as we're looking at 400 teams, that for a while there, Jimmy Johnson was 4-4. I think now Chase has fallen dramatically from maybe 1 or 2. I'd say he was still the slight edge over Bowman. Now down to 4th. No top 10s or top 5s in the last 4 races. 11th was his best finish in Chicago, and all of a sudden he's just looking. He had crashes at Sonoma, an engine failure, and then a crash at Daytona. He's stuck in a little bit of a rut here, Chase Elliott. Going into Kentucky, I know he had a 3rd place there a couple years ago. Could be a place where he seems to like those kind of tracks. I think it's not. His situation is solid. He's got the win. He's in the playoffs, but they're going to have to sort things out and shake it out by the time the playoffs start, because I think these next couple weeks are going to be big for Chase. Going to see how far he goes. Pocono's coming up again, a track he likes. You got Michigan on there, Watkins Glen, where he won his first race last year, career race. So lots of time to get things straightened out in the 9 camp, but really just looks a bit lost in the shuffle there the last few weeks. And Ty Dillon, huge call out to him. This is a big example of perseverance, patience paying off. First career top 5 in 108 Cup starts for him at Daytona. You got a 4th place finish for Germain. He's 23rd in the standings. He's outside the playoff picture on that bubble, but I don't think he will get in, unfortunately. But great gains for this team. I think his confidence had to have been down. Never scoring a top. Best he could do is 6th in that car, and now he's finally in the top 5. I think Daytona was their realistic shot for a lot of the teams, the underdog teams, to make it in. I can't see this team winning a race unless, I said, in under the circumstances of a pit strategy, a rain shortened event, them getting the winner's circle. And that's not a nix on Germain and Ty Dillon. It's just this team is not quite there yet. And for them, that's like a win, their 4th place. But they should just hold their hat on that. I think they can accomplish a lot more. If he can hover in that around that 23 in the point range, he could be in for a good finish this year. And that builds confidence for 2020. Ryan Newman, the 5th place finish. This was his 5th top 5. This was his first top 5 since Talladega in the fall of 2017. So much deserved for Ryan. Currently in the playoff picture, 16th, last 4 races. Looking pretty solid. I think he's going under the radar, and he tends to do this when he races for new teams. Look at his first year with RCR. He almost wins. He's maybe a lap away from becoming the champion, but no wins, as we know. 1 top 5, 3 top 10. So this team, arguably, the 6 car, has improved a lot since last season. They had Trevor Bayne and Matt Kenseth behind the wheel. The impact of the 6 car is huge for 2019 the rest of the way. I think if Newman can remain in the top 10 every week, keep himself in that playoff picture, they can get in on points. I know they want to win badly. I think it's been a few years for Newman since he's won. Breaks that nasty top 5 drought. So now it's time to focus on the big picture. I think Rush Fenway is going to get a car in there, either be him or Stenhouse, but I think still Newman represents the best chance for Rush Fenway to get in at this point, as Ricky Stenhouse didn't quite have the day he was expecting at Daytona. And again, much like Ty Dillon, that was really his one legitimate shot. And could be Bristol, too. Remember, he runs really well at Bristol. We got Bristol coming up in August. Bit strange next year. This race is going to be running late August, so they tradition of having this around the July 4th weekend no longer. And Corey LaJoie, big shout out to him. Career best for him, 6th place. Previous was 11th at Daytona in 2017 with BK. And at Talladega this year, 2019, with this same team, Go Fast. He was 12th at Charlotte. I think that, surprised a lot of people that this car is capable of running up front when they're on. And the 12th at Charlotte was big. Should have went for the win. This was their only shot, really, again, to get the 32 car. As he's hovering around that 29, 30th in points, he'd have to remain in there. And that could have been a tall order for him. Had he won this race at Daytona, let's just do some fantasy. Let's play some fantasy NASCAR here, and let's say he wins the race. It would have been so kind of a stretch to keep them in the top 30, because you got to remain in that top 30 to make the playoffs. But I think he would have been fine. Matt DiBenedetto did the same thing. Maybe he's going down that Matt DiBenedetto route, where he's going to race but go fast for a few years. And he's still a young guy, Corey LaJoie. I think at 27, he's a young veteran. He could go down that route, as I said, but I think there's a lot of upside to Corey LaJoie, and seems to have a great personality, winning personality, and I think that's something that, and again, his old man, a two-time Xfinity champion, Randy LaJoie was one of the best in that series in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I think Corey could find himself in a nice ride. He could go down, like I said, Alex Bowman proved it, that no matter what, he's gone down the same road as Alex Bowman, BK Racing. Matt DiBenedetto did it the same thing. I think at this point in time for him, patience will pay off. It's going to be a lot more bad finishes than good finishes, but I think Corey LaJoie could wind up in a quality seat in a few years. It's just not write him off just yet. But anyway, career best for him. Good for him. Eric Almirola, 7th place run here. Real shot to win, I think, is Daytona. They circled this. He loves restrictor plate racing. I think he could still win somewhere before the playoffs, but he looks like he might get in, but depending on their finishes, could bounce around. Amidst all the chaos and all the really head-scratching that's going on at Stewart-Haas Racing, he finds himself in the top 10. He's 10th in the standings, and he's in the top 10 here, so he's bouncing back and forth, but no one's really focusing so much on him. I think the focus is on the other three teams, where Almirola is proving that last year what he did in that car, that when they're on, they're on. And we've seen that. We've even seen that at the beginning of the year, and they sort of tapered off. The whole organization, as I said, there's a lot of uncertainty at this point. But I think in the 10 camp, as much as the stats don't always show you this, they look the best of the bunch at times. And Matthew DiBenedetto, let's talk about him. Great finish, 8th place. This makes up for the disappointment at Daytona, where he clearly had a car that could have won the race. 49 laps left there. He's 4th at Sonoma. Playoffs don't look likely this year for him. I know he had to probably be circling this race on the calendar. He's really good at Bristol, too, so I think that's another one, like Ricky Stenhouse. Might be looking forward to the night race at Bristol in August, but not likely to. He's going to build for next season. He's not likely to win, but then again, the question marks will come in. Is he going to be in this car next year for Levine family with Christopher Bell? And I still don't see Christopher Bell becoming a Levine family driver. No, that's been the consensus online on some online posts saying, well, he's going to. After 1 year, I can't see this. And the expansion of Levine family, they've sort of downplayed it. They're not saying that that's the route they want to go, is have two cars. So where is Christopher Bell going to drive next year? We can speculate on that, but I think it still looks pretty likely he'll drive the 20 car. But that's just me. And I think Matthew DiBenedetto will be safe in this car for another year. Give him some time to prosper, and I think good things will happen for Matt DiBenedetto and the Go Fast team. Matt Tifft, another great story here. 9th place run for him. Best of his career. Unlikely, front row always has a shot at Daytona, whether it's David Reagan or Michael McDowell, to run up front and have a shot at the top 10. But he makes the top 10 here. He's the first time. He's the highest finishing rookie of the race. Nice little feather in his cap. And we talk about this exclusively. We think that the rookie of the year battle is just Daniel Hemrick and Ryan Preece. Matt Tifft is actually a rookie of the year candidate as well. We don't talk a lot about him. And considering he was 2 years ago with his surgery and maybe his future really in doubt at this time, two years ago at Daytona, when he was still racing for JGR, to see him in the ninth place here, I know it's Daytona, but good for Matt, and I hope that he does get retained for next season in this car, and he got a lot of upside. And Kurt Busch, a missed opportunity. It really got to feel bad from the pit there. And so 10th place runner here at Daytona. He led before, coming down pit road and then handing the lead to Justin Haley. This is 2 runner-up finishes for him in 2019, most recently at Michigan. He is now, he was 8th in the points. He's been 8th in the points since Talladega, so I think he will be in the playoffs for Ganassi. But there's going to be that on a rumbling soon about that contract talks. When is he going to resign? Is he going to resign in this car? I think it'd be good for him to have another year here. I think this experiment has worked out nicely, like I knew it would. Kurt is a seasoned veteran. He can pretty much drive the wheels off of anything, and we've seen a lot of success from Kurt Busch. And he's going to be a true Hall of Famer, obviously. And I think I'd like to see him return another year in this car, because I think they've been so close. They've been knocking on the door, and I think they will find the winner's circle. I think this year, but even next year, if he comes back for another year. A second championship, I don't know if it's out of the question, but he certainly has the credentials. He certainly can do it. Kurt Busch is a great driver, and I think Ganassi is one of those teams that could use the second half here before the playoff run to sort of work out the bugs and get their cars really in a position to be competitive each and every week. And they are pretty much the second Chevrolet team next to Hendrick here. And Landon Castle could have been the guy we've been talking about this week, pulling off the major upset. 4th and 1 on the goal line. Can't quite get it in the end zone. Pitts lets the opportunity slip away. But on the upside, it is a great finish for Starcom, this team that was started by Derek Cope about a year ago. Lots of criticism for him pitting. You're going to get that at super speedway racing or any type of racing. And Landon Castle, honestly, an 11th place finish, that is great for him. That is his best finish since 4th at Talladega in the fall of 2014. So he's going to relish in that for a bit. But again, you know what? 11th is like second. You still didn't get to the winner's circle, and that's the ultimate goal, is to win. He didn't do it, and I understand that. I really believe that he went for it. They missed. But it's still, I know moral victories don't really count, and that's, we often talk a lot about that. It's just a moral victory, but it is something that could, attracted sponsors. Had this Starcom team won the race, like Spire, when they won this event, could have attracted some potential sponsors, get some more resources, so this team can improve. An 11th place finish, you look at it on paper, it's not going to say an asterisk, had a shot at winning this race, elected to pit, squanders any chance of winning the race. It's not going to say that. If you saw it, you know that, but when you're starting your marketing plan and you want to put your brand on a hood of a car, that's not what you're thinking about. But a great run for Landon Castle nonetheless. Maybe Talladega in the fall can make some of the playoff contenders a little bit unhappy, pulling upset there. J.J. Yeley, again, 12th place run. This is the best finish for Rick Ware, so it's a lot of career days for a lot of the underdogs, and you expect to see that at Daytona. It ties the best finish ever with Justin Marks in the 2018 Daytona 500, but this is Yaley's best finish since the 2013 Daytona 500 when he was racing for Tommy Baldwin at the time. And JJ is another story. Veteran, came from the IndyCar route, was sort of seen as maybe a second coming of a Tony Stewart. JGR hired him, put him behind the wheel of the 18 car, I think a little too soon. Sort of floundered around. It's been sort of a journeyman in all three series, but it's nice to see JJ up there. Nice 12th place run for him. And there's been a lack of power from the big four, from the big names this year. The multi-car stables, that's JGR and Penske. These cars struggled this week. Kyle Busch 14th, Truex Jr. 22nd, Eric Jones 23rd, Denny Hamlin 26th. JGR just not a factor this week. It's probably going to change in Kentucky, as we all know. And Stuart Haas, 29th for Harvick. No top 5 since Dover in May. Suarez, 40th in the crash. Clint Bowyer, 34th. 3 crashes in the last 4 races. Clint's pretty vocal. He's probably not too happy with his team right now. And his team is one of those cars that could be in danger of not making the playoff run. From a few more finishes like this, no victories, might not bode well for Clint Bowyer. Penske, Joey Logano leads 40 laps but finishes 25th, 39th in a crash for Brett Keselowski, and 36th. Ryan Blaney also caught up in a wreck. Not a good day for the big names, but the underdogs sort of stole the spotlight this week. Kentucky, maybe a different story, obviously. But Ross Chastain, let's talk about him for a moment. Colleague Racing gets their first win in Xfinity. And the most, I think, this is the driver, Ross Chastain, who is receiving most of the headlines in the last 2-3 months of any of the drivers in any of the 3 series. He wins an Xfinity race on Friday night. First one for Colleague, as we said. He rallies from getting his win stripped from him at Gateway. He wins Gateway after having Iowa stripped. Said that correctly. That's huge for him. So we're looking at him now, and a lot of people are starting to talk about Ross Chastain. Is he going to be in Cup next year? No, he's running for Jay Robinson now, sort of a start and park outfit. Had some decent runs in that car too, but I think here he deserves to be in a top tier Cup ride. But just where will he end up, and can he win the truck title this year? I think that's the focus for Alnice Racing, and he's still running Xfinity. Wins here for Colleague. That's huge. And Justin Haley, as we said, was the runner-up, the eventual Cup winner. That was huge for him too. A.J. Allmendinger, this would have been a 1-2-3. He gets his 3rd place. Fails post-race. That stripped from him. This is Chastain, I said, his 2nd career win in the Xfinity Series. He's won 2 truck races this year. This guy's Cup ready. Is it going to be with Ganassi? I don't know. There's a potential. He has the history with that team. But wherever we see him next year, I think this is like great. He's just a true racer, and it's great to see Ross Chastain having that type of success. And I think it couldn't have been better than ever for him. And I'm glad to see Ross Chastain after that debacle with DC Solar and Ganassi, and he didn't let it get to him. You know, this guy's determined. Small-time guy actually, from Florida, the watermelon farmer. It's a great story. If you really look at this story, you don't see this in IndyCar. You don't really see this so much in F1. This is something right out of a fairy tale, but he's making it work for him, and he's making it look good. So that is a huge win. Nice win for Ross Chastain and Colleague Racing. And other underdogs. The underdogs had a great night as well in that Xfinity race a week ago. Stephen Light. And probably a lot of you younger fans don't really know who he is, or even maybe even heard much about Stephen Light. But at one point, had Robert Yates Racing survived, to prosper and not shut their doors down and shifted their gears, Stephen Light could have been a huge name. He did win the Rookie of the Year in the Cup Series a few years back. Had some okay runs with Tommy Baldwin Racing when he was running for them. But a 5th place run from here. This is his first top 5 in the series since Homestead 07. That is nice for Stephen Light. I think the boat has sort of sailed on him, but Johnny Davis has put a lot of the sort of forgotten stars of the past, or potential stars that could have been stars, into their car, and they're doing really well for him. And Landon Castles even said he owes a lot of debt of gratitude to Mr. Johnny Davis for putting him in the Xfinity cars through the years. And Brendan Brown, 6th place run for him in his 34th career Xfinity start. That's nice for the underfunded team, family-owned business. Jeff Green, 7th place run for Jeff. Jeff Green's been really good at Daytona and Talladega. I know a lot of people shit on him. You know, the former champion, he dominated in the Nesquik 10 car, 2000 champion. And a lot of people now want to throw shade on him because he's starting and parking. He's there to collect the paycheck, whatever. But Jeff Green, every time lately we're at Daytona or Talladega, this guy continues to be a factor. He's a legit threat to win. How can you be mad at that? He's going to sit out the rest of the year following the race last night at Kentucky. We might see him in 2020 with Sieg Racing, depending on how things go sponsorship-wise. But he's pretty much 7th place here. Daytona was 7th in this February race. He's pretty much going to be the career all-time starts in the series if he makes it back in 2020. But, that's pretty impressive for Jeff Green. It's nice to see Jeff Green up front, regardless if he's starting and parking 90% of the races. Greg Golding, too, an 8th place run. I know Greg Golding's outside the playoff picture. May not make it with Bobby Daughter, but it's had a nice career renaissance for Greg Golding. He's running for a cup, with BK. And young talent could have got lost in the shuffle and just been written off. So young. I think moving back to the Xfinity Series was a really wise move for Greg Golding. And I expect to see more from Greg Golding next season if he gets back into this car. But I think this year the focus is on, just getting out there, maybe trying to steal a win. But I think Greg Golding, it's nice to see him with a great 8th place finish. And Tyler Ankrum wins the truck race. This is like the week for underdogs in NASCAR. And this is the first career win for him in 12 career starts. He could even win some of the races from the age restriction early on in the year, some of the tracks. This is the 2018 KN East champions. He's got some, background here and has been really good. For most people who probably don't know him, say, well, who in the world is this? He's got a pretty good racing background, and I did my research on him. And this is the first one for David Gilliland as an owner. Second-year team. And they get for the former K&N West standout, Cup driver. Son Todd's in the Truck Series as well for KBM. And they're going to talk about KBM. A report came out recently. I don't know if I put a lot of credence into it. There's this, I can't even remember who he is, but he appears a lot of times on Facebook or Instagram. His posts will appear, and I don't want to shit on any writers. I used to do a lot of writing about the series, and how can I put this? I don't want to bury anybody, but the writing's not that great, and a lot of his articles don't really get to the point. But there was one article saying that Kyle Busch was was thinking of parting ways with Harrison Burton and David Gilliland because they haven't solved the winner's circle this year. Okay, could be true. I don't know. I've not heard anything. He said apparently Kyle Busch said this in an interview. But look at Harrison Burton. His best was third 5 times. And this is 28 career starts for Burton. First year in the Truck Series full-time. Todd Gilliland, second year. The 2-time K&N West champion, 38 starts. Best finish was second twice at Gateway, the 2 Gateway races. Come on. 5 wins for Kyle in 2019, yes. And anytime he's behind that truck, he dominates. And I think the point was made in that article or the, I guess the podcast, or the interview the publication Kyle did the interview for, saying, was unacceptable. That's bullshit, I think. I would call him bullshit on that because KBM Motorsports is used to winning. They had Christopher Bell behind the wheel, Noah Gragson, and they were visiting the winner's circle other than Kyle. And they haven't seen the winner's circle this year other than Kyle Busch. But it's a very competitive series, and I think that's something we don't see in the trucks a lot. Look at Matt Crafton. We don't even hear much of Matt Crafton these days. That's how competitive this series has gotten. Johnny Sauter has made a tremendous career renaissance for himself as well in this series. Could have been forgotten in Xfinity and Cup. I think you got to give these guys some time. I think Todd Gilliland and Harrison Burton are going to win a lot of races, not only in the Truck Series but in Xfinity Live. Harrison Burton impressed in his debut race at Bristol in Xfinity car. I think Kyle Busch Motorsports is not really going to be in the chance. They're going to be in the pick. They're going to get him in the playoffs, Harrison Burton, possibly Todd as well, but they're not going to be competing for the championship. It's just not going to happen, I think. Sometimes the learning curve is pretty steep. And they won with Greg Biffle. Okay, we could talk about, but KBM won with Greg Biffle in the car. Greg Biffle's been out for a while. But Greg Biffle is put a championship behind Greg in the Cup Series, and he still might make the Hall of Fame. Greg Biffle's one of those talent. He's a great driver. He shouldn't really be on the sidelines. He just, for whatever reason, things got pretty stale with Roush, and they're behind the 8-ball a bit. I think Kyle Busch will not make a move. I think a lot of this is drawn out, really blown over out of proportion. I can't see that happening. These are two good talents. I know if Todd, let's say Todd loses the ride with Kyle Busch Motorsports, his dad's team is picking up on a life of their own. And I know a lot of people will shit on Natalie Decker. And you saw her little tantrum. If you've got a chance to see that, look it up on social media. She knocks, I can't even remember the other male driver's name. I apologize for that. She has a confrontation with him and then knocks his cap off his head. A bit of a tantrum, and people will, Natalie Decker, there's a lot of comparisons going to be made because we see how great Hailie Deegan is, and Hailie Deegan is not your ordinary driver. Hailie Deegan is going to accomplish big things. She's got that it factor. And it's not to say Natalie Decker is not a great driver. Some people say she's not. Who am I to judge that? But Hailie Deegan's a special generational talent I think we have on our hands. And someone like Natalie Decker gets criticized a lot for her Instagram posts. She's not really into racing. She doesn't want to be a racer. I think and she wrecks a lot of trucks, and we hear a lot of that shit. And again, I'll always say, unless you've done it, who are you to comment? Who are you to say that you could do any better? But anyhow, that I thought was pretty entertaining at a sidebar from that truck race at Kentucky on Thursday. But David Gill, if Todd loses the ride, his dad's got a team, man. And his dad's team's pretty damn good, too. Just saying. Cole Custer. Cole Custer wins Friday night's Xfinity race at Kentucky. Little Southern Fried action for him. 7th career win. And Bell and Tyler Reddick right behind him. That's going to be one hell of a battle this fall for that Xfinity title. I'm really looking forward to that. These guys have really made the series meaningful again. Good for them. And all three might end up in Cup next year. And I think Cole Custer is Cup ready. He has probably the least experience of the other two drivers. Tyler Reddick certainly became an overnight sensation. Let's call it for what it is. He was years with Keselowski's truck team, but he didn't have a lot of success there either. I'm really digging this battle, and I think it's going to be a hell of a battle. I cannot wait to see how this plays out. But Cole Custer, I think, is Cup ready. Where will he end up? I know there's a lot of talk about Rick Ware. He ran some Cup races for Rick Ware, and a lot of people shit on Rick Ware's team. Yeah, this team's not good. We know Rick Ware Racing is not an elite team. But a partnership with Stuart Haas, if they put him in, let's say, Rick Ware's car next year, it might be a tough rookie season. We all know that. But the future for Cole is going to be somewhere at Haas in one of those four. Did they dump Daniel Suarez? That's already coming up. I can't see that after a year. Daniel has a tremendous upside still, and it looks good to have a Mexican-born driver on that roster. The Cuban descent, Eric Almirola, very diverse. Harvick's not going anywhere. We all know that. So Clint Bowyer looks again like the odd man out here, unfortunately. If the results continue to decline, there's a shot. Cole Custer in the 14. Not that big of a stretch, but again, I think Tony Stewart admires Bowyer's tenacity, his grit. But even that, I don't know if that can save him. The results just haven't been there. There's a driver who was on a long, long winless streak, breaks it last year. One of the races was rain shortened. Remember that. I don't know. I just can't see it. But if he does get a year with Rick Ware, you know it's going to be the Rick Ware team, the name, but heavily influenced by Stewart-Haas Racing, because they're not going to make Cole. And they're not going to graduate Cole to the Cup Series and make him look foolish out there. And Rick Ware's team will get a lot of resources that will improve their situation. We'll just wait and see. But is he Cup ready? Absolutely. Cole Custer is having a fabulous year in the Xfinity Series, and we could talk about that another day. But losing those three top caliber drivers would be a huge blow to the series. As I said, the series is just starting to gain some momentum, gain some fanfare again, and who can step up? Next guy's up. We'll see. So Paul Menard, in other news, will re-sign with Wood Brothers Racing in 2020. That'll be the third year for that combination. Their best finish together is 5th at Michigan last August, and the Wood Brothers will be entering their 67th year in the Cup Series in 2020. Good for them. And this is going to be the 5th consecutive year they've been back running full-time in the series. And Menard, at some point, if he stays healthy, no injuries, will make his 500th career start in 2020. That's pretty cool for Paul. He has not won since 2011. So Paul Menard, I think the situation here, they're a Penske satellite team. They bring the Menard sponsorship. I think we talk a lot about, let's call for what it is. This podcast is real. People shit on Paul Menard. He's only in the series because his daddy's money. The Menard sponsorship. Okay, that might be true. He's not a bad racer. I just think he's juggled around a lot based on sponsor needs. But having that Penske, he's in pretty much the 4th Penske team car. The Wood Brothers are getting a lot of resources from Penske. That goes back to their days when they had Ryan Blaney on rental. Different Ryan. Paul Menard belongs here. I think he's had a great career. Not Hall of Fame worthy, obviously, but he did pull off one of the... Again, we talk about upsets. Wasn't that one of the big upsets in NASCAR history at Brickyard in 2011? Paul Menard? Richard Childress Racing? I think so. Again, they're always kind of hovering around the playoff picture. It'd be nice they can get in, but again, this year they're definitely going to need to win to get in. I can't see it, but that could be something that could be the goal for next season. Build the program. If they can repeat that same performance they had at Michigan last August, who's to say they can't find themselves in the winner's circle at Michigan in a month's time? But we're on to Kentucky. And this is going to be the 9th edition of the Quaker State 400. I think it has Walmart sponsorship this year as well. And all those previous 8, guess who won them, folks? Huh? You know? Penske and Joe Gibbs Racing. You knew that. That trend should continue. I think they had a couple off weeks. Truex Jr. was complaining. Hendrick took the win at Chicagoland. And then Justin Haley stuns the whole entire universe last week at Daytona. It's going to be a receipt for that. Guaranteed. Going to see a JGR Penske car in the winner's circle. Can see that trend continuing. But I wouldn't be disappointed if that trend is also comes to an end tonight and someone else is in the winner's circle. But drivers to watch. Let's be all in all seriousness. I think this is going to be the drivers you should keep your eye on this evening. Ryan Blaney, guy seems due. He wants to join his Penske brothers in the playoffs. I think he's going to make it on points, but he'd like to get in there with a nice win. He was 10th in 2017, second runner-up a year ago to Martin Truex Jr. Has all the tools, and I think a kind of racetrack like this favors his driving style. Due for a win. Keep your eye on Ryan. Kyle Busch. this is an obvious one, but you just look at the statistics. He's finished no worse than 12th in the 8 starts he's had here. 5th in 2017, 4th in 2018. The inaugural winner in 11, and he won this one in 2015 when he made his fabulous charge to the playoffs and eventually to the championship. And he wants that 5th win of 2019. Wants to have that one up on Truex Jr., who's going to be another driver to watch out for. He's going for three consecutive at this track. My goodness. Here's some underdogs. And you're saying, why are you calling these guys underdogs? But they're still drivers to watch. Jimmy Johnson, look at this for a minute. One of his statistically least favorite tracks. Doesn't really run well here. Granted, it's only been around 8 years, but he has never won there. Best was 3rd in 2011. That's his only top 5 in the 8 races there. But his recent wave of momentum and success could propel him to win number 84, add more history to your already ridiculously impressive resume. You notch the win at Kentucky. You put yourself in the record books. He'll win the Roval. He almost did last year. He could win the Roval in the playoffs. Wouldn't that just be icing on his man's cake? I think it is pretty awesome. But Jimmy Johnson, the Hendrick cars have been really reliable lately. Maybe this is where win 84 comes in Kentucky. Just think about it. Kevin Harvick, who I think has a tremendous opportunity to collect his first win of 2019. There's a sense of urgency. This team really wants to win. Just marred and really one of the worst stretches they've been in, I think, since they've been together. And this dates back to 2014. 6 consecutive top 10s at this track in the 8 years they've been there. He led 120 laps from the pole in 2016, and his best finish was 5th last year. This driver wants to win badly. I think if there's anyone out there that this would be a statement win for Harvick. Not only would it get him in the winner's circle first time in 19, but it just goes to show you that it might have taken a little while, but they're still very, very much in this championship fight, and there's someone you're not going to overlook. Not so easily. So we're going to see more of the old closer, I think, in this event. And here's a nice fun one if you're looking for someone just throw out of there. Just throw the name out. Ryan Newman. He was 3rd in 14 and 16 for RCR. It's a good finish for them. This is an upset. If he can pull it off. He's 4th for Stuart Haas, 2011. Think about it. Could be a big day for him. And the Roush team is running a lot better with him behind the wheel. And they are soon to be due for a win. So you take into account that. We'll wait and see. But I think that's someone you keep your eye on at Kentucky on Saturday. So I hope that you would enjoy that event and continue to keep listening to this podcast. And until next time, you're listening to the super fantastic above average racing spectacular. We'll be back with another episode next week. Until then, I will see you.